Hyundai and Honda make some of the best midsize sedans on the market today, but which one's better? What's up, folks? I'm Dave Undercoffler, head of consumer insights for CarGurus.com. Hyundai recently gave the Sonata a refresh for 2024 that includes the new face you see here, plus a host of other upgrades and new tech on the inside. So how does that stack up against the Honda Accord, one of the most popular and longest running nameplates in midsize sedans? To find out, we grabbed hybrid versions of each. So let's go drive them and pick a winner. But before we do, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you can get alerts on all of our future updates. All right, let's start by taking a look at the exterior of these vehicles. As I mentioned, Hyundai refreshed the Sonata for 2024. It's not a completely new vehicle, but it certainly looks new. A big part of that is the front end. It's been completely redesigned. Part of that is that the headlights are now gone. You also lost that chrome strip that sort of faded into daytime running lights. In its place, you've got this daytime running light that goes all the way across the front, and then the actual headlights are a little bit lower. As I mentioned, we're testing a Sonata hybrid. They really don't look that much different from the gas versions. Where you do see some differences are a little bit of the bumper design down below. Turning to the side of the Sonata, this is a good place to talk about dimensions. How does this compare in terms of exterior size to the Honda Accord? Well, overall, most of the dimensions are almost identical. The big difference is length. This Sonata is just under 2.5 inches shorter than the Accord, but everything else measures up the same. Finally, looking at the back of the Sonata, Hyundai made more design changes back here. Gone is sort of the hook-shaped taillight, and in its place, you've got this horizontal light bar running across the vehicle, and then this sort of pixelated look that matches up with some other vehicles in its lineup. All right, now we're going to show you the Accord, but before we do, a quick word on trim levels. This is the Hyundai Sonata Limited, fully loaded, as nice as it gets in its lineup. This is about $38,500, as you see here, including destination. Meanwhile, this Accord is the Hybrid Sport L. It's almost the highest end. Only thing above it is the touring trim. This car, as you see here, is about $36,400, including destination. As for the Accord, it really hasn't changed much since Honda introduced this generation back in 2023. Our Sport L does have some extra features. We've got blacked out mirror caps here. There's a blacked out rear spoiler in the back. And finally, some really nice 19-inch alloy wheels. One thing I want to note is even though this is a lower grade trim than the Sonata only has 17-inch wheels, so score one for Honda. All right, let's look under the hood. A lot of similarities between these two vehicles. As I mentioned, we're testing the hybrid version. So in each of these, we have a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine paired with an electric motor. On the Hyundai, you get 192 horsepower. On the Accord, you get 204 horsepower. So a little bit more power for the Honda. In terms of fuel efficiency, that actually depends on which trim you choose. All versions of the Sonata hybrid are rated at 47 miles per gallon combined. The model of the Accord that we're testing is rated at 44 miles per gallon combined. But if you go with the EXL, that's rated at 48 miles per gallon, so that actually beats the Hyundai depending on the trim. Meanwhile, both of these cars are front-wheel drive. The Hyundai has a 6-speed automatic transmission, whereas the Honda uses a CVT type of gearbox. Both of these models also offer cheaper gas versions if you're not looking for a hybrid. On the Accord, it's a 1.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, and on the Hyundai, it's a 2-liter 4-cylinder non-turbo engine. Another thing about the Hyundai is that this Sonata with gas versions can be had with all-wheel drive. That's not even offered on the Accord. And finally, if you're looking for a little more spice in your sedan, Hyundai also offers the Sonata in the N line. That is a turbocharged 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine that makes 290 horsepower. So when it comes to all-wheel drive, what do you guys think? Is it necessary to offer it on a mid-size sedan like this, or should they not bother? Let us know in the comments below. All right, now to the interiors, and we're going to start in the Sonata. As I mentioned, Hyundai gave this car a pretty significant refresh for the 2024 model year, and that really shows up in the interior here. Big changes you're going to notice is now we have a complete screen running all the way across the dashboard here, 12.3 inches here, 12.3 inches here. The screen has wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto connectivity. It's a really nice system. The screen is bright, it's responsive to your touch, and the menus are really nicely laid out in a very logical order, so that's pretty cool. Down below, you have the climate control features. These are mostly touch panel, but I love that Hyundai kept the knobs for both the driver and passenger temperature controls, but then also the radio tuning, and then here you have a row of physical buttons as well. Down below, this console was also redesigned in this refresh. They moved the shifter, which used to be a push button shifter. They moved that to the steering column here. I don't love that. It's kind of hard to see what gear you have it in. Yes, it displays on the instrument panel in front of you, but still, it's kind of out of the way. Using it is actually pretty intuitive though. Just twist it forward to go in drive, twist it back to put in reverse, and then park is on the end there. Another very small thing I've noticed as I've been testing this Hyundai is that, yes, I love that there's a physical button for the volume knob, but it's completely blocked by the steering wheel. You can't really see it there. So that's a little bit of an oversight. Fortunately, you do have audio controls on the steering wheel, so you can use those. Now that the shifter is moved out of the way, this console has more storage area for a variety of things. You've got wireless smartphone charging down below, and then a variety of connectivity ports back there. As I mentioned earlier, the Sonata that we're testing is a fully loaded limited version, so that gets us a lot of goodies. Some of those include leather seats that are heated and cooled up front. We have a Bose 12-speaker audio system. I've got a heads-up display in front of me, and finally, a really nice panoramic moonroof. As for the seats themselves, they're pretty good. Nice side bolstering, really good comfort and lumbar support, so overall, a very comfortable vehicle. All right, now to the Accord interior, and I can already tell the minute I get in this, I actually like the Hyundai interior more. It just feels more upscale. This feels a little austere, and the materials in this Accord aren't quite up to par when you compare them to the Hyundai. So just something to keep in mind. There are lots of things I like about the Accord interior. You've got a 12.3-inch screen here and a 10.2-inch display screen there. This is wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto connectivity. I love that Honda has included a physical volume knob right there. The screen itself, very responsive to your touch. It makes this nice little click. It's very satisfying when you hear it. It's like almost like a mouse click from back in the day. So that's pretty cool to use. Down below, you've got very traditional climate control features, no touch-sensitive panels or anything like that. These have a really nice, satisfying click to them, so that's pretty cool. Dual zone climate control. We've got heated seats in our tester. And then below that, a physical shifter. I really like this. I'm just sort of old school. There's no buttons you're dealing with. And some really nice cubbies and storage below that. As for these seats, these are excellent seats, really nice bolstering on them. I definitely prefer these seats to the ones in the Hyundai. And then we've got a moonroof above, but again, not as big as the panoramic one that's in the Sonata. Overall, this is a nice interior, perfectly comfortable, good screens, good tech, lovely place to spend some time. But if I'm comparing it to the Hyundai does win out. It just feels like the fit and finish and materials are one grade above what this Accord offers. When it comes to interior space, as you might imagine, both of these cars are really pretty close in all of their dimensions. I'm sitting in the rear seat of the Sonata right now. This has a little bit less legroom, but a little bit more headroom than the Accord. But as you can see, I'm still plenty comfortable. I'm 6'1". I've got this seat adjusted to where I would have it if I'm sitting up there. So basically, I'm sitting behind myself. And as you can see, despite this car having less legroom, there's still plenty of it. So definitely pretty close between the two models. Meanwhile, both cars now offer a pair of vents back here, and below that, USB-C charge ports. Finally, when it comes to cargo space, again, both models are pretty close. This Sonata measures in at 15.6 cubic feet of space in the trunk. Meanwhile, the Accord is 16.7. So even though this Sonata is down in terms of cargo space by a little bit, there's still plenty of room back here to carry everything you're going to want to take with you. All right, next up, driving impressions. And we're going to start in the Honda Accord. And that is because if you care at all about how your car drives, the Accord is hands down the clear winner in that department. It's not just that it has more horsepower. Again, 204 horsepower in this model versus 192 in the Hyundai. It's not just that it has more power, but it's how it applies that power. It's just a little more engaged, a little more fun, but it's not just the power. It's the handling. It's the dynamics of this car. It just feels more lively. You have a better sense of what the car is doing on the road. You're getting more feedback from the steering, from the brakes, from the suspension. Everything is working more harmoniously to give you a very fun driving experience for this car. Now, sure, no one shopping in this midsize sedan segment is looking for a sports car, but why not have a little bit more fun in your daily commute? And that's what this Accord delivers. As I mentioned earlier, this Accord has a CVT type of transmission. Usually I don't love CVTs. I don't think they mimic the behavior of an automatic in the way that I would want, but here it's actually really nicely tuned. So kudos to Honda for doing that. Another thing I want to point out, there are paddle shifters on the steering wheel here, but they actually don't shift like you might expect. Instead, they adjust the levels of regenerative braking a lot like you'd find in an EV. Now, the only downside to that sportier ride and better handling is that some people may get in the Accord and think that the suspension is a little too harsh. I don't think so. I like that it has those sportier dynamics, but be sure you get in and test drive the car and just see how it feels to you. All right, now we're driving the Sonata, and as I mentioned, this just doesn't quite match the Accord in terms of driver engagement or the amount of communication you're getting back from the road. So to some people, that may not matter. They just want a car, they want it to get them around places efficiently and comfortably, and in that regard, the Sonata definitely delivers. This is a quiet car, it's very comfortable, but for that everyday driving, I do just love that layer of fun that the Accord offers that this Sonata doesn't. So what makes the difference? Well, the steering on the Sonata is just a little too numb. The suspension and the general handling of the vehicle it's kind of sleepy. The shifts of the transmission, again, a little bit slow. And when you're on the freeway already traveling at speed and you go to pass somebody, the power in this Sonata just kind of falls flat. But it's not just traveling at high speeds, it's also around town from a dead stop. This car also feels a little sluggish in terms of acceleration compared to the Accord. Now, some cars have really nice drive modes. You can put the car into sport, and it sort of sharpens everything up. Maybe it's a little more responsive from a dead stop, or maybe the steering gets a little bit better. Unfortunately, this sport mode doesn't sharpen up the steering or give you that meaningful acceleration off the line. And it also will sort of hold some of the upshifts at times, which means the car kind of has this sort of jerking back and forth experience around town. And that all adds up to kind of a frustrating experience overall. So yes, this Sonata doesn't offer the level of sport or engagement that the Accord does, but to a lot of buyers, that's not going to matter. They're going to want just the most comfortable, the quietest car, and in that regard, this Sonata wins out. All right, folks, there you have it. Our comparison between the 2025 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid and the Honda Accord Hybrid. So what did we like about the Sonata? Well, it's got a lot of style and sophistication for this segment, and the redesign gives it really nice looks on the outside and nice tech on the inside. And finally, it's just an overall very well-rounded sedan. So what didn't we like? Well, it's pretty dull to drive overall. It's got that odd shifter placement on the inside, and the exterior styling may not be for everyone. So what did we like about the Accord? Well, it's definitely the more fun to drive model. It's more efficient if you choose the right trim, and it's got handsome styling inside and out. Cons? Well, the interior is cheaper and more basic than the Sonata, and the gas models don't offer all-wheel drive as an option. But overall, which of these models do we prefer? Well, if you've already made up your mind and you're just watching this video for a little validation, go with whichever one you prefer. They're both great options because they offer you a lot of efficiency, amenities, and comfort, so there's no bad pick here. But overall, we do think the Sonata is the better pick for more buyers out there. It just does everything well, despite a few oversights that most people won't be bothered by. That said, if you do care how your car drives, and that's a higher priority for you in picking these two sedans, get some seat time in the Accord. I think you're going to be pretty happy. So for reviews or listings of either of these cars or anything else you're shopping for, new or used, be sure to check out CarGurus.com. And before you go, like and subscribe to this channel so you can get alerts on all of our future updates. We'll see you out there.